Web3 friends. I'm with somebody very special today, Sammy Carter from Unstoppable Domains.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be in your super cool studio here. I love it.
We've changed it up a few times, trying to find other studios that have, we like the lights, we're playing around with the colors, but it's always fun to find unique spaces like this to play a game of Connect 4 or Jenga. So today, the choice was Connect 4. So we'll do best 2 out of 3. I don't think there are any house rules. I think we both know.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So Jessica?
So I did one already a little earlier.
Oh,
maybe I
no.
I'm trying to get ahead. I like that if you're going to let me get ahead.
So I'm very, very familiar with Unstoppable. We're pledged here Women of Web3, which we did last year during the Women's Month.
Yeah.
We've had Unstoppable come into our Discord at the peak of the market, talk about the hiring because you guys were staffing up. And something that I've preached a lot to our community of job seekers that are looking to make that transition into Web3, looking for their next Web3 job is I'm a massive fan of what that recruiting process looked like, but more so even the onboarding experience. We've talked to hundreds of employers in the Web3 space, and something very unique to Unstoppable is, or was it, I don't know, so the case, I'm sure it is the onboarding of an individual coming into your company through that education process, what they learn about Web3, and then by that, also what they learn about Unstoppable. And so I'm not sure if you guys are hiring or if you're, what your onboarding process looks like today, but I'd love to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we're not hiring as much today as we had been in the past.
Yeah.
But we are still hiring for some critical roles.
Okay.
And so our hiring process is we have several people interview you, whatever the role is, whoever's really important to that role. And then we borrowed a page out of Amazon Web Services book, which is we have you write a narrative. And the narrative takes some work. So when I did my narrative, I had to do a narrative too. I took 3 weeks to do it. I didn't obviously spend all 3 weeks, but I took enough time to really dive deep and really understand what Unstoppable was doing, what we might do. So we ask you questions like if you're a manager, define how you would form your team, how would you set roles, responsibilities, what would be your long-term vision, what would be your advice for the company. So that means you've got to do some research on Unstoppable and know what it is, and it does require an investment of time. We have had 1 or 2 people to get to that point to say, I don't want to invest the time.
Really?
So we just pass because we require that. We don't skip over that piece. But it tells you a lot, and in fact, most candidates who have gone through that process, all candidates who've gone through the process have told us that it really helps them also frame up in their mind a cultural fit. Do they understand what the business is, and do they know what would be ahead of them in the onboarding process? So it's really, really valuable. And it's so funny, Lacey, almost immediately, whether someone's going to fit and going through that process.
Yeah.
And before, sometimes you're like, I don't know. And then you get to that element, just like at Amazon, where it really impacts a lot of hiring decisions, it does here too.
What were you doing at Amazon? You were at Amazon before, right?
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, so I led, at Amazon, the last role I had, because I was there for 5 years, was I led our regulated businesses. So we have financial services, we have healthcare, we have public sector, and I spent a lot of time in my public sector because most of our business and public sector is driven through partners, so BD-focused areas. So that's what I did. That's actually where I went down the rabbit hole with Red3, really understanding what is blockchain, looking at how the metaverse or AR and VR was helping in education and that sort of thing. So it was I can't say enough great things about Amazon for sure.
So outside of this process that a candidate goes through, that's unique. I don't hear that story often. Again, I talk to a lot of early stage builders, and you guys are a little bit later staged, and so I think there's that gap within the hiring process in terms of finding that team fit. So anybody that's listening and you happen to be hiring, this could be a great lesson to take from the playbook in terms of how to find a candidate that really fits and embodies the ethos of what you're building. Outside of that, what would you say, maybe even in the peak of when you were hiring, was the #1 skill that you looked for in applicants? And just for context, I get a lot of answers similar to creativity, leadership, teamwork, curiosity is a big one that I get.
Curious.
Yes, and so a question when I ask those questions to employers, and the questions that I get from job seekers that listen to that are often, well, how do I show that on my resume?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because I'm also going to give you an unusual answer, and what I look for is grit. And grit for me is about, the ability to persevere. So you're at a startup. We might say, hey, we're going to do this, and then the market changes and we have to do that. So we need someone who's got that perseverance and that grit to say, okay, we were doing this, I'm now going to turn my focus here because this is where the market's turned, or this is what customers are telling us, or this is really what we need. And so it really, for me, the way to demonstrate that on a resume is to show me where you've pivoted before. Show me where you failed before. One of my most important lessons that I learned at Amazon was I had a failure, and it was pretty big. And so I was asked to go and present that failure. I had never been asked to do that before in my career. 10 years, 15 years of my career, never asked to go and present a failure. I was always asked to go and present best practices, right? How you had done this well, why was this successful? Never to focus in on a failure. And it was part of Amazon's success because they teach you to fail fast and then learn and make improvements. And then once you share that, then other people learn from that and they also make that adjustment. And so, show me where you failed. I'll have a lot of, ask questions in an interview. So tell me your biggest failure and what you learned from it. And you'll be surprised how many people will say, never failed. And I'm like, never failed? Yeah. Or they'll say, oh, one day I turned this website blue and it was supposed to be red. That's not a big failure, right? That's like a minor mistake. And so I really want to hear where you failed. And if you haven't failed, that signals to me, A, either you're not self-aware, or B, you haven't taken a risk. And if you're going to go work at a startup, you're taking a risk. And we want you to be a risk taker in that environment.
How do you give feedback to candidates? Like, let's say you passed on somebody, maybe even for that specific reason. It's like, hey, I don't feel like you've taken enough risks in your career. It could be a slew of things. But I know frustrations coming from the job seeker community is often like, I don't know what I did wrong. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I said. All I got was that generic, email rejection back. And some HR leaders will go out, depending on who they're hiring for, the volume of candidates, they'll go out of their way to write a special note. But for the most part, you're going through hundreds of applicants.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when I joined from Amazon, because it was featured, we had 1,500 applicants come in,
oh my gosh.
For 40 roles I had open. So there just wasn't any way that, because you're going to screen resumes ahead and you reject some people just based on resume. Mm-hmm. So there's no way we could reach back out to everyone. But a lot of times, the interesting thing is a candidate will call me and say, I really want feedback. And I'll give them that feedback. And then the next thing I know, that candidate calls HR and says, I can't believe that you felt like I didn't take a risk. I can't believe that you felt like I didn't answer that question well. And so because of that, we don't get a lot of feedback because for me, feedback is a gift, right? If you're going to take enough time to say, hey, Sandy, you should have done this, or hey, Sandy, you did great here. Next time you might want to focus here. I consider that a gift, even if I don't agree with the feedback. And so I think that the way candidates respond to that also is very important. Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of times, HR will say, man, based on the way that person responded to what you told them, it's a great thing we didn't hire them. Because we're going to give a lot of feedback. And in our company at Unstoppable, at Amazon, we did yearly reviews. At Unstoppable, we did quarterly reviews. We provide feedback directly written every quarter. So if you're going to freak out every time you get feedback, it will be not a good experience.
Yeah, that's a great point. And for the individuals that are looking at Unstoppable saying wow, I'd love to come work for a company like that one day, what are some tips and tricks you can give to those candidates? Is there anything that they should be highlighting in their resume? We talk about risks, but anything else that you're this would be great to see in some of the applicants going forward?
Yeah, I would say, you don't have to have Web3 skill or Metaverse skill. So that's not a requirement because we do a lot of that training when you onboard if you don't have that skill set. But I would say that, if you're thinking about Unstoppable, think about maybe gaps and things that you see from the outside looking in. That would be an excellent way to get someone's attention, right? I hired someone who said, wow, I was looking at this and this and this, and I noticed there was a gap. And I said, wow, you know what? I was so much in the fire that I didn't see it. And, you know, great for you. I didn't have that job right, but I want that. So come on in and let's do that together. So it would really be, you know, studying the company and understanding, really being interested in it. And, you know, a lot of times, I will tell you, people that we reject almost immediately, and this is happening a lot right now. In the first interview, a lot of people will say, well, how much money am I going to get? How much equity am I going to get? And especially a lot of women now are coming in that way. I think it's because they're getting coached to say that women don't negotiate enough on salary. And I do believe that's true. But the first interview isn't the place to bring that up. It's not the place to start talking about salary. You know, when you apply for a role, usually it gives you a range or it gives you something. So you should take that, get the job, and then negotiate. Yeah. That's what I say, right? Convince them that you're the right person. I've even referred people to other groups. And the person will call me back and say, wow, this candidate started with, how much am I going to make? Like, they didn't even ask me, you know, they didn't even ask me, like, how much, you know, what's your culture like? What are you guys doing? What's your vision? How can I, you know, how can I help you be successful? They start with salary. So that for me is pretty tough, you know, thinking in that regard.
What is the number one reason that somebody should come work for Unstoppable?
I mean,
I'm sure
you're gonna say. I'm sure that you're gonna hear this a lot from different companies. You know, this kind of sounds, I don't know, hokey. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's really about purpose. Our mission is to put a digital identity in the hands of every person on the face of the planet. And we're doing that by, you know, working with women's groups, Unstoppable Women of Web3, right? Like you talked about at the very beginning. And why are we doing that? Because we want to make sure that every woman has a digital identity. And so basically everything we do falls to that. We want to get a digital identity in everybody's hands. And for me, that's very purposeful. Yes, we have a profit goal, but we also have a purpose goal. And so if that's something that really gets you excited, that really gets me excited, right? I'm not just going after money, but I'm also looking to change the world, right? That to me would be a great reason to apply and come work at Unstoppable.
That's awesome. I love that. That's great. And because I am on crypto Twitter, like everybody else, you just got a new title.
Right? I did, yes. I just got promoted to COO and head of BD. I'm so excited. So it's really going to be interesting. So now I have all the go-to-market pieces, marketing and sales and communications, but also legal. There's lots, you know, because we're going after brand new ground. There's lots of things there. So anyway, it's really cool to kind of look across and also share information. Like I just got customer support. Customer support is so critical in giving feedback to your partners and feedback to the Eng team. And so it just feels really good having all the pieces that I can now put them together and help our customers out.
That's great. And you've been working, I'm also on, as you can tell, I'm very a fan of the Unstoppable community. I also have a LisaKalani.nft that's through Unstoppable, that's on my Twitter, as my Twitter name. And I also follow the newsletter. So I see all of the amazing updates that almost feel like it's weekly. Where I get like an Unstoppable email that's like, hey, it's integrated with X, or hey, we're doing this. So maybe you could talk about some of the updates that over the past few weeks that have come out, and maybe some updates that we would be looking forward to.
Yeah, well today, in fact, my colleague just left to go over to Magic Eden. We launched these mystery boxes with Magic Eden. Magic Eden is one of our newest partners. And the really cool thing is the Magic Box is $100 and you're guaranteed to get at least a domain of that value. But then you get interested in registered in the contest. You have to showcase your skill and build out your profile. And then we're going to pick 25 winners of that based on the skill set of people who will win domains that could be valued $1,000, $5,000, $20,000. So it's really cool. Yeah, and you get to showcase your skill set. So it's not, you know, a game of chance, it's a game of skill, which is, I think, really cool. So we just did that. We released it for minting today, so that was quite interesting. And then we also recently announced Polygon, which I love. I'll be going to see them later tonight. I love that because, you know, the king of ecosystems right now is Polygon. So I love to see the ecosystem building with that .polygon. I thought that was great. And then on the offering side, the profile page has gone up. We've released AI avatars and embedded AI into our search bar. So making sure that we're using AI as a partner for what we need to accomplish. We've also just announced parking. Now parking's, yeah, that's what everybody knows. What? Parking? Parking is so cool though, because what it does is it enables you to purchase a domain. So if you're, you know, like unfamiliar with Web3, one of the hardest parts is getting a wallet, going to exchange, putting money in your wallet, buying something. So we've now made it super easy for a non-crypto person to come in. You can buy your domain with a credit card. You can now not have to have a wallet to store it in, right? That's where, so now you can store it in what we call parking. It's parked there for you. You don't have to memorize your keys. You don't have to hide your keys. All that's managed for you. So it's almost like the ability to hide some of the complexity from you as you move forward.
Yeah.
Really powerful, a very nice new feature, one of our fastest growing new features that we have.
That's great. That's been a topic of conversation today, and specifically around NFTNYC, which is this like invisible Web3 handrail, right? And that's really going to be what onboards the next wave of non-crypto users. Is how do we just put crypto on the back end, the blockchain on the back end, Web3 on the back end, and just give the user the seamless experience we want to give them without bombarding them with the wallet address, with the keys, with all of this stuff that can be super overwhelming, and frankly, a customer might not even care about. They just want to understand, how does this unlock value for me, and how does this allow me to either get from A to B faster, or give me a utility that I can't get elsewhere. And so it's great to hear that you're doing it. So
yeah, you know, that was really an interesting switch in NFT NYC. Last year, I talked about onboarding the mainstream, or what I call the normies. And man, I got fried for it last year.
Really?
Like people were like, "What? Like we're Web3? You want to onboard these Web2 people?" And then I was listening to many of the sessions today at NFT NYC.
Yeah.
Everybody's now recommending it. So it's really quite fascinating how fast the market changes.
Really.
And how fast, you know, some of the beliefs change too. Which is, again, why probably many people said to you, what do you look for in a candidate? Learn and be curious.
Yeah.
Because everything's changing so fast, right? And because it's changing so fast, if you're not one who seeks out information to learn, then you're going to be left behind.
And last question for you before we wrap up our
heated
game.
It's your turn. Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where can we learn more about Unstoppable? Obviously, I already talked about the newsletter. Where else can we follow?
Yeah, we have a very active Discord group, so you can jump into Discord. If you're not a Discord-y person, you can also jump on Twitter. We have great Twitter spaces. Our Twitter handle is very, very active as well. I also post a lot on my personal Twitter, which is Sandy_Carter, and LinkedIn. And I do that because most of my tribe still has that Web2 bent to it. And so I try to post more, more articles that are in normal language, not the Web3 speak, on those two channels as well. So depending upon your degree of difficulty, you can go into Discord hardest and the most deep, or you could go to my LinkedIn page simplest, because I try to explain it for everybody to understand, including my mom.
Yeah, well, I feel like the UI experience, when you just go to Unstoppable Domains, just your landing page, super seamless, clean, very easy to understand, which a lot of people, that's a hard thing to achieve. We're always talking about that internally. It's like, how do we make this experience, you come onto our site, you understand exactly what you're doing, you get the utility, you get all of it. I mean, you guys have done a great job. So we'll drop all of that information down below, the links, your LinkedIn page, and also your Twitter handle, so you can make sure to follow. And I think I screwed up. Wasn't paying attention. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Sandy, for coming on. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next one.